第一次参加 XREXPRESS Taiwan 所举办的 Business Trip， 他们安排的行程是非常丰富，2个参访行程之外，晚上还会有聚餐跟晚宴，所以对我来说有许多可以商业 BD 与交朋友的机会。
最让我印象深刻的是有一位从巴基斯坦来的，那他连续3天都来我们的摊位，他今天还告诉我们说，他回去一定会在我们的 online store 买我们的产品。
We had a lot of visitors here at our booth. We get at least 3 or 4 other companies that actually want to work with us.
觉得这次展览让我们更大开眼界，那也让我们能真的拓展我们新创的视野，然后往国际方向去走。
我觉得这次出展非常的成功，我们获得很多与国外厂商交流的机会。那在未来，我们也希望能够与这些厂商进行更进一步的合作，然后那对我们的业务的发展有非常大的帮助。
是全台湾第一届举办这个针对了虚拟实境 （Virtual Reality） 还有呢我们的扩增实境 （Augmented Reality） 的一个奖项。希望可以链接台湾跟国际的 XR 的生态圈。
我们期待这个大赏呢，可以刺激台湾更多的厂商新创可以投入这个 XR 领域当中。
不单指 VR、XR 的团队把解决方案带给企业，同时也让企业能够更了解 VR、XR 怎么样帮助他们解决问题。
XR 技术在教育的领域里面，既有这么多丰富的作品，跟非常令人惊艳的一些表现。其实 XR 是带领人类生活进入未来科技一个很好想象的平台。
想要利用 AR 的新科技，把台湾的医疗产业透过5G 网络传播到全世界。
对于一个导演来说 ，VR 叙事是一个全新的领域，它打破了过去我们电影古典的一些规则、一些规律。
我们一直希望可以提供更多更优质的 VR 教育内容给教育单位，那确实帮助到这些学生跟老师们。
那用一个不同的创新的一个方式哦，那呈现在大家的眼前哦。
5G 的世代来了，在 VR 的 OTT 上面，它需要有更多元化的这样子的内容的应用。
你能够到后面完成这样的产品，是一个就是我们觉得很有成就感。
那新的技术真的会产生新的价值啊，那这是我们对这个奖项给我们最大的肯定。
XR 这个领域，台湾的伙伴们都非常的有创意跟有潜力，可以拓展到全世界去。
可以更有信心，然后可以更坚持下去，撑过这一段的之后，我们的软实力跟我们的硬实力可以得到更多的很好的一个成果。
那我希望说，我们可以从台湾出发，然后迎向全球。
非常谢谢今天与会的所有得奖的伙伴们，若没有你们这么辛苦的在研发上面投入下去，然后不畏风险，不为人家觉得不看好 AR、VR， 还是继续的往前走。谢谢你们的勇气，谢谢你们的信心，也谢谢你们的执着，才能够累积成为我们今天这个颁奖的所有的这个开花结果。
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and gamers, and good afternoon in New Zealand. Welcome to XREXPRESS Taiwan online event. Hello, gamers. Welcome to the Metaverse. In today's event, we have 5 speakers from New Zealand and Taiwan with insights from corroborated game development company and event organizer. Before we get into the topics, I would like to welcome Corey Sher, the captain of XREXPRESS Taiwan, to give the opening remarks. Please welcome Corey.
Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoons. And I'm Corey from the XREXPRESS Taiwan. Today, our topic is about Metaverse. And as most of you may know that Metaverse has become a new buzzword. And the concept is more than a trend lately. So to explore the opportunities and potential of it, we, XREXPRESS Taiwan, is going to have 2 online events and will invite over 10 speakers from different areas, including gaming, blockchain, platform, VR device, and investment. Today is our first event, and we are so pleased to have 6 distinguished guest speakers from New Zealand and Taiwan. So the following, I will introduce them to the audience. And please, speakers, wave your hand when I speak of your names. Thank you. So the first speaker we have is Han Lu, the BD Director of Taipei Game Show. Welcome you, Han. Please say hi to the audience.
Hi, everyone, and thank you very much for inviting me to this amazing event.
Okay. The second speaker we have is Carl Leduc, the board member of New Zealand Game Developer Association and also the production coordinator of Rocket Words. Welcome, Carl. Hello.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate being here.
And we also have Sam Ranud, the founder of Method and the managing director of M Theory. Welcome, Sam.
Kia ora, everyone.
We also have Joseph Lin, the VP of Content and Platform from HTC. Welcome, Joseph.
Thanks. Nice to meet you.
All right. And next we have is Peter Liao, the CEO of Pumpkin Studio. Welcome, Peter. Hello, Peter. Are you there? Okay, I think he is there.
Hey, everyone.
Okay, and last but not least, we also have Dr. Ge Rujun from National Taipei University of Technology as our moderator for today's fire chat session. So together, I think they will share the amazing insight on how XR and game developers can enter the metaverse and the challenges that may be encountered. And hopefully through their sharing and discussion, we will give you a whole picture of the metaverse. So I wish all you enjoyed today's event, and thanks again for all the speakers and guests to join with us today. So thank you.
So thank you, Corey. And on behalf of team of EXPRESS Taiwan, I'd like to thank all the speakers participating in the event again. And special thanks to Spark Amplify and Ministry of Awesome for supporting the event. We are also holding an online virtual showroom with 5 Taiwanese game developers on it, so be sure to check out their information while you're on there. You can scan the QR code up on the screen or go to virtualshow.tw. Without further ado, let's start our XR online event now. From now on, I'm going to hand over to our honorable speakers. So first, we have Han Liu, the Business Development Director of Taipei Game Show. He mainly focuses on B2B zone and indie game house startup projects and has overseen the transformation of physical exhibition. As the pandemic strikes in 2020, he successfully held the first offline hybrid event, Taipei Game Show 2021. This January. So we look forward to hear how the concept of Metaverse kicks in the physical events and the pandemic. Please welcome Han Liu.
Hi everyone, this is Han from Taipei Game Show, and once again, it's a pleasure to be invited to XREXPRESS Taiwan. It's an honor, and today I'm going to talk about how the concept of a metaverse kicks in for us as the physical event organizer. So before I jump right into my presentation, I would like to take a couple minutes to talk about Taipei Game Show. So the entire show is consisted of 3 different parts. So the first one is the B2C zone. That is the one that focuses on providing the contents to the public gamers and public visitors. And the second one is the B2B zone. That is where all the exhibitors, all the buyers and travelers, visitors, they will be gathering together and then to conduct business meetings and to discover new business opportunities. And the last one is the Asia Pacific Game Summit. That is actually the forum of Taipei Game Show that will be having some experts and industry leaders to deliver some insights in the forum. So in the B2C zone, we have an average of 320,000 of visits every year. And a lot of game companies, they will choose Taipei Game Show as their first stop to debut their Mandarin or Chinese localized game into the Mandarin-speaking market. And it also covers a wide variety of different genres, from like a more conventional games from PC, console, mobile, all the way to board game and indie game. You can see all of them in the B2C zone. And in the B2B zone, we had a participation from over 40 plus countries for the past couple of years. And it mainly provides the business matchmaking service and the networking environment for all the industry professionals. And we have also invested a lot of resources into the indie game developers community. So as you can see from the chart below, nearly half of our exhibitors in the B2B zone are indie game developers. Then we also have some developers, we have some publishers, marketeers, and also some advertisers as well. And the last one is the Asia Pacific Game Summit. We already had over 200 speeches delivered ever since 2014. And we have audience both online and offline, and they will be gathered together and to listen to the talks delivered by the international speakers. So that's pretty much everything about Taipei Game Show. And then COVID-19 struck. So that is when we have to think about what we have to do to cope with the situation. So as you can see from the chart right here, we actually took a quite big hit. So ever since the year of 2014, in terms of the size and the scale of our event has been steadily growing up until 2019. That was actually one of our largest show ever. And then moving on to 2020, that was a fortunate year for us. The COVID-19 struck, and we already had everything set in place and ready to launch. But the COVID-19 struck, and the entire show got canceled just 1 week before it actually take place. So you can see the X mark beside the year of 2020. And then moving on to 2021, at the beginning of this year, we somehow magically managed to host another physical event in Taipei. And but as you can see from the chart right here, the size and the scale of the event was heavily affected by the COVID-19. So right now, the question is, physical event is basically impossible under the circumstance at the moment. So immediate action is desperately needed. We have to go online, we all know that, but how to do that, that is the question. So we have some observations in the year of 2020. We have a lot of friends and partners around the world that they are all physical event organizers, and they have been experimenting different approaches to cope with the COVID-19 situation. So you can see, for example, like some of them use this so-called interactive exhibition floor plan. It's basically the website that you can go onto, and then you can just move your cursor onto this floor plan to the exhibitor's booth, and then an information screen will pop up and to show what they have to offer, and maybe it comes along with the video clip or something. And you also have interactive 3D venue with an avatar in it. So it's basically, it's very similar to playing a game that shows other games. So you can put yourself into this avatar and you can wander around the virtual venue and to walk in other exhibitors' booth. And you have another version of that, that is like a step up of that, that is the VR venue. It's very similar to interactive 3D venue, but you have to have a VR headset on to be able to access that. And last one, you have the scheduled online program. It's basically, it gathers all the contents that exhibitors have to offer, and then to consist an hours of long of programs and premiered it on the YouTube. So regardless of what kind of approaches that the organizers took, we all had one thing in common, that is that we're all trying to bring the exhibition, the experience online to the audience. So our answer on the B2C side, on the B2C zone, is that we have launched this brand new online program called Play Soup, that is 贡丸汤 in Mandarin. And the show is streamed live every Friday night ever since the beginning of 2021. And we are very lucky to have subscribers over 5,800 more. And the average views on each episode is 30,000. And in the show, we will invite popular key opinion leaders, influencers, and seasoned gamers, and to deliver some talks and some in-depth conversations on the ACG topics. And they will also be playing some of the latest games provided by our friends in the industry, so that our online audience, they can still get a taste of the new games, the new gameplays. And the event we will have the chat room set to be live, so that all the online audience, they will have the chance to interact with all the guests and all the hosts in the show. And then they can interact with them through the form like mini games and lottery draws, so that they can feel the sense of participation in the process. And we are very aware of the fact that this approach is very similar to a lot of streamers and YouTubers are doing at the moment. But we figured that if we want to go online, we have to play by their rule. So, and then to combine that with our own strength, that is the deep connection within the game industry. And the answer on the B2B side, the B2B zone, is relatively straightforward and intuitive. So basically, we just simply move the entire forum online and streaming it on YouTube. And we have scored an average views of 3,000 and more. And that is, for me personally, that is not too shabby for industry talks. And as for the B2B zone, we thought about what is the core concept of that zone, and then we stripped down to the core concept, that is to provide a place for international business networking, so that the exhibitors, the previous exhibitors and buyers and trade visitors, they will still have a place to network, to interact with one another, and then they can still arrange online meetings or exchange their contact info to have further conversations through this way. So we have 1,500 more business meetings matched and conducted this way ever since the outbreak. So it all comes down to one question, that is that what the future holds. So for me personally, I think there are three changes for us as physical event organizers. So the first one is the change of role. So from this point on, I believe that we can all agree that the course to the virtual world is now irreplaceable. So the first one is the change of role for us. So the organizer will be playing a more active role from this point on, and this on the content creation. And this action will cause the line between the event organizers and the press media to be blurred. You can hardly tell which one is what from this point on. And that leads to the second change, that is the new definition. And the relationship between the event organizers and the exhibitions will not be limited to one another from this point on. So before, we were identified as the Taipei Game Show event organizer. And Taipei Game Show was also identified as the physical event that happens at the beginning of every year. But from this point on, Taipei Game Show, of course, it will still mean the physical event that happens at the beginning of every year, of course. But it could also mean some awesome online programs. It could also mean online business, matchmaking services. It could mean a lot of new things. And that leads to the third change, that is the virtual application for us as the physical event organizer. Because in order to do that, in order to expand our experience onto the internet, continuous effort on testing new online showcasing grounds will be conducted in the foreseeable future. So we believe that we are now trying very hard to bring experience online. And when we are doing that, we have to play by the rules that was set by the pioneers and the predecessors of the internet. And that means the game developers, the programmers, the YouTubers, and also the gamers as well. But we still believe that if the people have the chance to pick one, to choose the form, whether it's to attend the physical event in person or to attend the event online, we still believe that most of them will still choose to attend the physical event in person, even under like a very costly expense for international flights. They will still choose that because most of our fans, most of the visitors, they are not simply looking for latest game information or entertainment itself. What they are actually looking for in the venue is the feeling, the experience once they step into the venue and they have all the good stuff in front of them, and they have the chance to walk around and then to bump into their friends from the community, and they will have the chance to get their hands on the latest device and the latest games, to feel the texture of the new controller or to feel the gameplay of the latest games. That is exactly what we are trying to provide here in Taipei Game Show. So hopefully in the near future, we'll still have the chance once again to gather together and then to enjoy all the amazing games and all the amazing products. So this is my presentation for the day. I hope you all enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Han. And be sure to check out TGS after the event. Next, it's our pleasure to have Carlo Leduc, Carlo is a board member of the New Zealand Game Developer Association and game developer, currently working as a production coordinator for Rocketwoods on PC survival game. Because he is also the broadcast host of Zero to Play, a weekly game development show where he interviews gamers all throughout the industry and challenge them on topics relating to the future of the media and discussion of their roles. So we are all excited to hear how he thinks that Metaverse will open a new opportunity for game developers. Please welcome Carl.
Cool. Thank you, Sherry, for the introduction. Yeah, so the metaverse is a really, really interesting topic, and I think a lot of people have different ideas of what the concepts are for the metaverse, and I just want to touch on the one that I think is the most exciting for how it might disrupt the future. So for me, the definition of the metaverse is a fully virtual world that we live our lives in. So it's not just virtual experiences, but it's actually how you get from one experience to the other. It was really interesting watching the Taipei Game Show and what you guys are doing with the NZGDA. We organized the NZGDC, which is our yearly game developers conference. Luckily, because of New Zealand not having COVID as a big risk, we haven't had to transfer to a virtual conference, but we did look into it, and we did test out different types of software and different ways of communicating through a virtual application, and it is really exciting. But the bigger picture, I think, is a metaverse where you can go from you live inside that world, and you can have experiences in social media, in business, and education. And if you look at Ready Player One, the movie, I think they do a really good job of kind of selling that concept. And that's what I find really exciting. So when it comes to game developers, the reason why I think they are in a really powerful position at the moment and in the next 10, 20, 30 years is because I believe the metaverse will be built on top of game engines. So things like Unreal, and I think Epic and what they're doing with the Unreal game engine is definitely leading the way, I think, in terms of services that they can offer for developing metaverse-like experiences. And game developers that learn these tools, I think, will be a step ahead the rest of the world in just understanding the kind of experiences that could happen in the kind of services that will be built in the future. So in New Zealand, there's a bunch of VR and AR companies. We'll be hearing from Sam Ramlu after this, the managing director of M Theory, who's developing a really cool VR experience called Wanderer VR. And what I love about them is they're really exploring how you can tell stories, really engaging stories in a virtual environment. And I think that things like that are really important. And I think games do a really good job of proving technology. And that's why I think game developers will lead the way for the future of technology and the kind of solutions we'll see on a broader basis when it comes to other industries. Other companies that are doing really interesting things in New Zealand are Metia Interactive and Ara Journeys. They're creating local stories in like a VR and AR environment. And I find the work that they're doing really impactful and really important because it connects with the local communities. And I think having those stories told in virtual environments is really important as well, just to get the next generation of developers seeing stories in those environments to help inspire the next stories that will be told. Other companies are like Staples VR, Beyond VR, and also just any game development company that has 3D artists, that has game developers working in game engines like Unreal. I think that they are all working on skills that will be really valuable and really sought after in the next generation of game development companies and experiences. If we see the metaverse turn into like Ready Player One in the next 20 years, I think the people that see that opportunity now and start learning game engines like Unreal, like Unity, and I'm sure there'll be more game engines that pop up that become very popular for certain activities. Conferences, for example, there might be a specific game engine that's developed to make those conferences function properly in the best way. And I think just jumping onto those game engines and really just understanding that they are the foundation of these metaverse-like experiences that we're going to slowly go towards, that's, I think, a really great perspective to have. Other than that, that's kind of all I wanted to say on what's happening in New Zealand. Obviously, there's a lot of innovation happening. I think the market is another interesting conversation. It is there is still a long time before the market catches up to the kind of projects that are being created. Now is definitely an early time to get into VR and AR and mixed reality projects, but I do think there's a lot of attention on it, and it's the people that innovate in the right ways now that will really capture the market once it becomes mainstream. And that's what is really interesting as well, is what your market is. For example, like a conference, your market are the people that are attending the conference, and I think there'll be interesting solutions solved through VR experiences that we'll see more of as the years go on, and as little communities latch on to different VR experiences. And I'm really excited to see that and just see what different areas pop up and what becomes more commonplace, what people get more comfortable doing. And yeah, it's just a really interesting space. Obviously, the other part of the conversation is the technology, and making sure that the technological limitations of having all these virtual people in one area in real time communicating with each other. There's definitely limitations to that at this stage, and the hardware and making sure that that's easily accessible and that kind of thing. They're all problems that we need to solve. But I have full faith in just the passionate developers that I've seen in New Zealand that are just working on really cool experiences, working on using the technology in different ways, and just trying to wrap their head around how this could, solve different problems in the world or create different interactive experiences. So one question I just want to end my little talk on is of what happens is the question, what happens when all media becomes interactive? And that's, I think, it sums up the concept of the metaverse perfectly, because if we start living in virtual worlds, everything will then become interactive media, and interactive media is the definition of a game. And I think game developers understand that, and other creators from other forms of media will have to catch up to understand what interactive media is, what it means to make different choices, and kind of have those different experiences. And that's why I really believe in game developers to kind of lead the way in this future where more and more things are becoming virtual and becoming online, and interactions happening more and more online. I hope that makes sense. Thank you for giving me the time to just give a little spiel about what my thoughts are on the metaverse. So yeah, thank you, and I'll pass it on to Sam afterwards. Oh, back to you, Sherry. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. So for those of you who are interested to know more about Carl and his podcast, Zero to Play, you can leave a message on our Facebook page. So coming up next, we have Sam Raru from Method. Sam is the founder of Method and management director of M-Theory. She is very passionate about creating experience and stories that connect with audience, and have successfully planned and implement a range of digital and integrating campaigns and experience for leading New Zealand and global brands such as Rebel. And Sam is going to give us some insight of when the game world collides with Metaverse. So please welcome Sam.
Hi everyone. I'm also going to just apologize because I might have to have myself on mute at moments to have a coughing fit. Look, it's really interesting. I think, there's a lot of stuff that Carl's touched on. We've got a couple of studios that we run. One is Method, which is essentially a creative tech studio where we do a lot of client-focused work. So a lot more, creative tech as a service. So we do a lot of work in the augmented reality, virtual reality, exhibition and gaming space. And so what we found is over the years, the appetite has grown a lot more for the new technologies. It's been something we've been around for 18 years, and it's been something we've been pushing for a very long time. And it's just really interesting to see sort of where some of those connections starting to happen, and maybe more so now with COVID and all that, where we're at now. And then the other side of what we do as well is M Theory. M Theory is really purely focused on AR, VR and games, and was set up to kind of start looking at launching our own original IP. And one of the games that we've been working on for a few years was Wanderer. And in fact, we were in Taiwan a few years ago when we could travel, and we were looking for funders for Wanderer, which is essentially a VR time travel adventure game. We'll show a little trailer at the end of my little chat. I think Eddie might have that ready to go. And so Wanderer, essentially, we were lucky enough to get some funding a couple of years ago now from Sony PlayStation, which is pretty amazing, for us as a small indie studio to have that sort of validation on a game idea that we thought was quite unique. Wanderer essentially basically takes you back into moments of time. So you play through history and basically set events back to what they should be, is the kind of premise of the game. And so there's a time traveling device in there. And so what's happened with Wanderer is when we got the funding, we've essentially put that aside, or set that up as a separate studio. So it's a joint venture with another indie game studio called Odd Boy. And so we've taken Wanderer, set up a team around that, and essentially they are just focused on developing the game. And we're very close to launch. We've literally just delivered beta this week. And so we're looking at a September launch. Some of this is confidential, Carl, don't go spreading the word. But essentially, there's so many different parts to this, I guess. And I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. What I see in sort of my, so I'm an executive producer on Wanderer, but day to day, I don't get a lot of, the team is basically just developing the game. So I get involved in the marketing, PR, testing, the hype around it and managing the studio and the company. But my day to day typically involves sort of a lot of client service work and the M Theory work that we're continuing to do. And it's really interesting seeing on the client side some of the changes that we've seen. Last year, we went down a route of looking at web-based augmented reality in terms of where the development came to, and set up our own platform around that called Meta, about how to take web augmented reality further, so instead of having an app, you can go through web-based content. And also the kind of shift, what we found is, and clients wanting more VR experiences. It's been really interesting because with COVID, obviously, with a lot more contact with VR, there's been less of a need for that. We were doing a lot more VR experiences in 2019 than we have been in the last year and a half. But what has been interesting, though, is a lot of the sort of training scenario type projects we've been doing. We've done a bit of work for Fisher and Paykel Healthcare, and that's basically because they couldn't go to conferences anymore. And so it's about how we can market and train people in the healthcare space on their new products. And then just some of the conversations we've been having around the space in terms of, I read something today, it must have been on Twitter, where someone said, literally everyone is becoming a gaming company or games company. And it just struck me as really, quite interesting, because we've had quite a few people approach us in the last sort of 12 months, and we're working on a project at the moment where they're trying to combine, or they have this sort of small knowledge on the games industry and what they've seen, and then they've got this crypto knowledge and AI knowledge and NFT knowledge. And so, it does feel like a little bit like jumping on the bandwagon of something that's really new and happening at the time, but them trying to combine some of these to go, what's a business opportunity? So a lot of the work we do is still in very much an education space, trying to explain to people how some of these technologies could work, what is the best way to make the most of it. So the way we work is very much around, objectives and how people might want to present and create content. And so working with some clients in that space, we're looking at currently at the moment an NFT style product and how they want to bring that into gaming, which is quite unique, but also just thinking about what they're creating in a sense of what might pull into the metaverse with the idea of having these characters that you can then take into almost any game. So there's some really interesting conversations going on in this space. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but what I find, and this is more of a personal thing, but what I guess I'm really passionate about personally is this balance between our physical and digital. And I think for me, the Ready Player One scenario, as amazing as some of that is, to me, it also feels like a dystopian future. I think as human beings, I would hate to see us live our lives fully in a metaverse style scenario. So for me, it's really about balance. I think as gamers, we get really drawn into the game that we're playing. You can spend hours on playing a game and really be within that space. And it doesn't even have to be VR, right? But you literally like living in that world, whether it's Assassin's Creed or Sims or whatever else you're playing. But I think what's always also really nice is coming out of that space and being in your physical space with friends and family around you as well. And so I think what came out of COVID, I guess when I see things like Ready Player One, I kind of have this feeling of how sad would it be, for us to all live our lives completely in that space. And so what was heartening about COVID was that the things that people craved the most was that human connection. So for me, I think it's really important to maintain that balance. And I think as developers and creators in this space, it's up to us to also be ethical in how we're creating that content and have a sense of social responsibility, I suppose, for me is really important in making sure we are creating some of that balance, for physical and mental health well-being. So for me, those are some really important things that I want to bring into this conversation. The other thing I just want to really touch on quickly was there's some massive opportunities in the AR space as well, because I think, often we think of VR because you're going into a different space and you're fully immersed as kind of being more like the metaverse scenario. But I think augmented reality and mixed reality more so can obviously lend itself to that as well. We've had a lot of conversations much more recently with Snapchat and Snap Inc. and what they're doing in the space. And it's really interesting. We've got relationships with them, with PlayStation, with Sony, with PlayStation, and we've got, PlayStation VR next gen coming out imminent, probably about a year away. And then there's Oculus as well. And it's really, really interesting seeing what's happened in that space. And if you look back at, I don't know how many of you would have had the first dev kit that Oculus had way back in 2013 or 14. And coming to where we are now with the opportunities and the potential, some of the stats we're seeing in Oculus Quest 2 and the amount of sales that generates is, I think that accessibility, is really important. So a lot of the content we're creating is accessible and inclusive as well. So sorry, I've kind of done a massive spiel around everything in my thoughts. But I guess all of that comes into play in a lot of the content that we create and how we treat this content. I've probably almost gone over my time, so I'm just keen for Eddie to potentially play that Wanderer clip, if we could do that, so you guys can have a bit of a peek at what the Wanderer trailer.
Well, kid, if you're watching this, then you made it. Oh, this far, at least. What I'm about to tell you might seem crazy, but it's important that you understand what's about to happen next. This world you know, battered and broken, is not the world that was intended. There are those that believe humanity was always fated to destroy itself. they'll tell you this future will always be inevitable. But this is a lie. You see, we perceive time and space around us as fixed, a clock steadily ticking ever forward. However, the lines between the past, present, and future are an illusion. Nothing but a thin veil behind which lies the path to many possibilities. I have left you everything you need to put things right. But be careful. Not all is what it seems. You must finish what I could not.
Oh, that's just wonderful. So no pressure then.
Thank you, Sam. And please visit Method MM Theory's website for more information. And you also can leave message on our Facebook page. So now please welcome Joseph Lin, the Vice President of Content and Platform of HTC. As the Vice President of VIVE Content and Platform, Joseph is responsible for managing the global business of product, platform, marketing, operating, and content business. Prior to joining HTC VIVE, Joseph worked at Trend Micro as an R&D director for 14 years. He's an advocate of the Metaverse and believes that will be bringing a new vision for all mankind. And he's going to show us how to unleash your infinity imagination about the Metaverse. Please welcome Joseph.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Really nice to have this opportunity to introduce our views about the Metaverse. And here I'm going to unleash your infinity imaginations about the Metaverse. Okay. So before we start the presentations, I'd like to give you the video clips. So it's the Ready Player One in 2018. It's the most often considered when discussing the virtual reality at the beginning. But it is actually talking about the Metaverse, the whole concept. The movie did a great job of showing what an immersive experiences in VR might be like someday. Metaverse is a digital place when you go to find things you love in single, seamless experiences, and when you live and work continue to develop. When Ready Player One, the book, debuted in 2011, it's actually outlined a Metaverse society as everybody logging into a single online environment, the oasis, where they live, work, and play. So let's recap the history. So that's from Web 1.0 to 4.0. So 1.0, as we all know, is the first implementations of Web, and it's also defined as a network of information connections. At the time, according to the creator, the World Wide Web was a read-only network. And coming to the 2.0 is a whole new different generations of the web. It allows the people to gathering and management of the global groups and common interests, and a medium offers of social interaction. And we'll talk about the 3.0. It's also named as the semantic web, and it aims to be more autonomous, intelligent, and open internet. But until now, the Web 3.0 not really been implemented yet. It doesn't have a solid definition neither. And it do combine with the many cutting-edge technologies such as blockchain, IoT, artificial intelligence, but it haven't come true, and there's no role models in this centuries yet. But at this moment, when we talk about the 4.0, it's a symbiotic web. It's a boundary between human and machine will blur. So we talk about the full VR and web meetings, artificial systems, communities, the way humans do using natural languages. We are working on it, but the complete change hasn't happened yet. So in the forecast and for our imaginations, Web 4.0 will be a next generation. It's combining the intelligent personal agencies and the goal-oriented intelligent connection, and the new society and new ecosystem will be the metaverse. But even further definition, people talking about the federation universe, and there's a new term called the Fediverse. So that's why we anticipate it will happening in the next generation. Okay, and finally, when we talk about the technology, so there are several key components and the technologies to be unfolded. So we eventually will eliminate boundary between digital contents and the physical objects that we know today. So here are key technologies. First of all, is the VR AR are the bridges between digital and physical worlds. OpenXR is a royalty-free open standard that provides high-performance assets to augmented reality and virtual reality. And 5G enables the new kind of network that is designed to connect virtually to everyone and everything together, including machine, objects, and devices. Artificial intelligence is impacting the future of reality, and every industry and every human beings will be impacted. And the last one, the most important one, will be the blockchain. The blockchain virtual world can drive the growth of the metaverse. And blockchain in the metaverse is to build a new kind of the digital assets economy based on ownership and governance. And actually, there are many different definitions of metaverse, but I think this kind of the definition is the easiest to understand. It focuses on people that can create a virtual version of world, which enhance their experiences from the physical one. Since the metaverse is now a new idea, but why it grown so fast recently? And we think it's one of the reasons because of the pandemic. In the past months, the whole world, the outbreak of the pandemics has been a major reason to bring the metaverse to life. The global pandemic has pushed us all indoors and further online. We work, learn, live, and play in virtual spaces and digital communities. And we spend time with friends via screen, Zoom, fictional worlds, and gaming or e-learning platforms. Video games world have become to so much more than just play the games. The players hanging out in the world on the latest skins and avatar mods are enjoying concerts in virtual reality. And when we talk about the metaverse and we foresee this the new trends and how the industry looks like, and here's a come with the PwC predictions. The overall metaverse related VR AR market size will grow to multi-thousand billion scales in 2030. But my personal perspectives, I would anticipate it far beyond these scales. So yeah, we're really exciting and looking forward to growth. And when we come to the metaverse frameworks, the people talking about different definitions, the components, but this is just one of the components we think it could outline how the metaverse key components will look like, combining the hardware, computing powers, networking, virtual platforms, and all the technologies and the payment. The blockchain will be the one of the key components here, and all the content assets. And in terms of the HTC VIVE, we evolved and we developed our technologies and our business for many years in this industry. And we contribute, we implement our own product and features on virtual realities. And moving forward is the connections. We are able to upgrade our overall efforts and the business into the metaverse. So we just released the cutting edge new hardwares, and we have the brand new platforms, services, and in markets, and we participate this international organizations to help them to define the cutting-edge standards. And we also have the premium content partners to join us and to promote their premium contents into the Metaverse. And HTC will also create VIVE XR Suite to enable organizations to create new business, social, and cultural opportunities. And VIVE Social, we provide a virtual social exchange platform in collaboration with VR Chat. And this is the new ecosystem. This is an ecosystem diagram from Newzoo. These companies recognize the Metaverse trend as a growing importance of virtual worlds and digital persistence in unlocking alternative spaces and industries for sharing human experiences. So the Metaverse can feel like an impossibly far away concept, but actually the truth is that we are already living amongst the Metaverse, and the future will be here before we are truly ready for it. We can see all the gateways infrastructures are ready now. So are you ready to play in the Metaverse? And I think we are all in the Metaverse already, and it's happening and growing fast, and we are really excited to get into this world. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, here's my presentation. So back to Sherry.
Thank you, Joseph. And please check out the engaging experience, a new form of Metaverse. Last but not least, we have Peter Lau, the CEO of Pumpkin Studio. Peter is a VR enthusiast, game lover, and serial entrepreneur with rich experience in market analysis and operations management. Peter has successfully established 2 companies in the US during 2014 to 2016 and founded Pumpkin Studio in Taiwan in 2016, and currently releasing a new game called Quanta, which will become a form of Metaverse. And now he's going to tell us his experience in building the Metaverse. Please welcome Peter.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me to talk about this huge topic, and just sharing my presentation real quick. So the topic I'm going to talk about today is building the Metaverse one step at a time. And first, I honestly don't know which step we are right now. And also during the presentation, I don't want to sound like I just kind of like introducing our game, although this is pretty much like what I'm going to show. So I guess what I really want to share with you guys is our Quantar game developing history, and more about like explaining the game logic behind like how we building our game and how it's step by step become Metaverse-like games. So first, just sharing a bit background about us. We have started our journey of VR since 2016, and since then we have been dedicating VR content development. In first 1 and 2 years, our main product is location-based virtual reality content. We have 3 VR titles by that time, and also partnership around the world. So we started to develop our online multiplayer VR hero melee game in 2018. So during the production of LBVR, we learned that there is some challenge for this business model, and also for us. For LBVR, the content itself has very low replayability rate because it's focused on VR experiencing and storytelling. So like everything is being set up in the games. So even though it's fun, but it's really hard to have a players to play a second time or third times. And also to operate this type of business, it requires human resource and the space too. And for the company side, the content we create that can only create the short-term value. And also we feel like we are, in 2018, I think we are losing our competitive advantage because we kind of entered VR industry very early. We're building LB VR title when there is no even a professional way to code this type of business at that time. But in 2018, we can see there's more studios start to develop VR, and also can see there's a growth on the online market. So we just feel like we should start developing the title that can represent Pumpkin and something big. So so here's the idea before we create this title. we want title to have high repairability, which can create the stickiness between gamer and our games. And even in launch, we can still add more stuff to keep it alive. So to produce a long-term operation strategy, and most importantly, it's innovation gameplays. For me, it's all about the gameplays. There's some famous games that have been dominating the market for a decade, like Counter-Strike, League of Legends, Dota. And what they offer to the gamer is a very unique game experience back in the day. Even if you didn't play this game for like a year or two, when you come back, you can still able to pick up and then have fun with it. So that's kind of what we want to have in our games, a fun and innovative gameplays for a player that can compete with each others. So I mean, like everything we do is surrounding by these ideas. So Quantar, a face-paced VR melee where you can compete and explore and share with friends. It's combined the first and third player view in the games. Also, it's a first third-person PvP game in VR market. So we take Super Smash Bros. And League of Legends as a reference because we want the player to have the sense of identity for it. So we want them to feel like, oh, this is a game like we played at PC or console before, but now have a VR version. And I think it's worked. So and when we first finished building the first Quanta version is in 2019, and the game structure is actually more like a fighting game type of structures. So we only have it with a matchmaking system, and the first version is also the offline version too, because we combine our games with the VR Chaos, which can also build like it's an all-in-one package, and we sell it offline. So original plan is to sell this Chaos to the place like Sega, which is also a channel of us, or like Devin Buster, and after that, when we move to online version, we will have more credit. Because it's such a unique design for both software and hardware, so we just feel like we can do it. We also have operated a VR eSport event at Taipei, and everyone had fun, and we have more than 80% of repairable rate. So that's kind of like successfully reached our first goal about first idea about like creating this title is repairability rate. But then the COVID is coming, so we kind of just like stop the Chaos production immediately. But from here, I think this is a strong turn point about us because we transferred it to the online right away. I mean, like I made a decision right away, but the process for the game development, it takes at least like 1 year to come up with a whole new structure for the online version. You gotta have the market space and like player level or the leaderboard, and all the the structure is different too. Like we research AWS for like half year to have it to integrate with Quantar, make it become a real-time multiplayer games. So this is a whole new Quantar, and it's actually we're going to launch a pre-alpha next month. So if you own a VR headset, welcome to join us. We would definitely like to hear your thought. And now I'm going to play a video, and which is about like 2 minutes long, and it's going to show what's Quantar, and hope you guys like it.
Hi guys, I'm Peter. We are an indie team that has been developed 3 VR titles for arcade since 2016. After those 3 titles, we want to create a fun and repairable VR title that everyone can easily pick up and want to invest time to master it. Then here it is, Quantar, a VR title that we have been working on for 3 years. Hi, I'm Barry. We're all fans of PvP metagames. Quantar is a fast-paced VR PvP metagame combining first and third person. You can enjoy the intensity of combat and dig into the rune system to develop your personal playstyle. And this is something never seen in the VR game space. So we have spent so much time designing the gameplay mechanics and this multiverse setting. In Quantar, you can build your own playstyle, mastering the heroes, diving into a rune system. All the hero has their skill set and special ability. My personal favorite hero is Chaos, who can grab everything from the ground. Scalability and customization are some of many features of Quantar. there are many diverse areas for players to explore and customize into their own. Combat is not the only thing that will get you hooked. Social is another feature in Quantar. VR enables us to interact with others in a new way, and we are making this more epic, like this. Quantar's social bar. We are creating more heroes and secret features for the space station and bar. Stay tuned, come join our community, add the game to your wish list, or support us on Patreon. See you soon in Quantar.
Right, so as you can see in the video, Quantar is not only a game anymore, but also a social platform that you can connect with others. You can hang out or meet new friends, and then jump into a game, or just opposite. So we're adding a scalability for the game. So at the future, we're adding more heroes, map, and items, and game mode. And we have you can unlock hero, complete the mission, and also we're going to support Steam and Oculus, finally PlayStation. So the long-term goal about Quantar is first is support the PC and mobile and console, and I guess that's kind of the idea about the Metaverse too. Like it's maybe at afternoon you play this game on your cell phone, but at night you put on the VR headset, just like the experience different type of environment in the games. And then it's a game customization system. Young player and teenager, they love to create something inside the games. So we definitely want to add this in our game to bring more creative and fun. And also like crowd gaming is definitely one of the tech for us to look for, because it's going to like have the player to spend less on the hardware and bring more players to the games. So as for did our game fit in the concept of Metaverse, I will leave this to the audience and the gamer. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And for those of you who loves multiplayer Smash game, be sure to support Quantar. And now we are going to have fireside chat, and we are honored to invite Carol from New Zealand Game Developers Association, Sam from Method, Joseph from HTC, Peter from Pumpkin Studio, and our special guest, also the moderator for today, Professor Rujun Guo from National Taipei University of Technology. And for those of you who are listening, if you have any question, please leave a message on our XREXPRESS Taiwan Metaverse live event Facebook page, and we will pick few questions to answer them at the end of the session. And now I'm going to hand it over to Professor Ko.
Thank you, Sherry. Hello, everyone. Hi, Carol, Sam, Joseph, and Peter. Hey, nice to meet you here. And it's my pleasure to be here to share with our audience something about Metaverse. Yeah, we all know about Metaverse is like a buzzword, but maybe it's really the future. The founder, CEO of NVIDIA, or like the ARC venture, Christy Woods, they're all talking about Metaverse. And I think maybe this keyword is also very important for you or your business. So maybe we can share some thoughts with our audience about the Metaverse. So first question I want to ask about, what's the key element you think when we talking about Metaverse? How or what's your company project is building or involving in constructing this generation Metaverse, or maybe the future generation of Metaverse? What you or your company is doing about this trend? Or maybe you can share with us about some popular or interesting Metaverse examples. Who want to be the first? Who want to share something with us? Maybe Joseph, you're from HTC, right? I think Metaverse is a very important move for you and also your company. Yeah.
Thanks, JC. Yeah, I think there are two interesting the business cases I could share this time. Because we have two portfolio companies. One is Engage VR, one is VR Chat. They just did a fundraising last month, and they're very successful fundraising, and it's a very significant scales. So I just want to talk about these two cases, and they have different unique expertise and the business models. First of all, is the VR Chat. VR Chat, I think, is a well-known VR social platforms, and lot of people hanging around, but there's one unique feature is immersive, because many years later they still don't offering any web experiences. There's no mobile apps. They're still persistent in a PC client and the VR headsets, because they want to provide the most immersive experiences, and they're doing very well, and they're very successful groups to support these ideas in Japan, in US, in Western worlds as well. So the most successful elements to help VR grow is the society. The bunch of the creators help the communities to grow and to attract the audience to come and play. And every time they come back, can discover the new experiences. So I would say that the key factors to this metaverse be successful will be the creator. A lot of the people support this world to make it more growing and is active. Okay, and then the other way is like Engage VR is completely different, because Engage doesn't have the social network, but it offers a flexibility of the platform features. Let the presenters, creators be able to organize and animate your presentations much more vivid and more active. So it gets a lot of the attractions and a lot of the people's index upon the engaged. And even more, they also positioning and define themselves as the business metaverse. And this also, they define themselves as the future linking metaverse. So I say, moving forward, there are a bunch of the metaverse, they have their own definition, their positioning. And there's not only one metaverse, there are multiple metaverses, and they will work together gradually. Yeah. I think that's also the two cases I would like to share to the audiences.
Yes, that's very cool, because it reminds me about the early days of YouTube or like all kind of social network platform. So I think maybe two keywords from Joseph is creator and also the network, right? So maybe Carol, you're the next. You want to share something with us? What's the key elements, or what do you have any nice example or interesting example about Metaverse?
Yeah, so while Joseph was speaking, it reminded me of a conversation I had with someone about Twitch and just live streaming in general. And that example was talking about the current technological limitations of having a like multiple concurrent users engaging at once. And at the moment, we're able to have one person live streaming video with a chat with up to millions of people engaging in chat form. And I think the next iteration of the metaverse is to have, ultimately it'll be in a virtual space, but you can just see the technological limitations of just having a Zoom call with more than 100 people isn't possible these days. And I think what platforms like Twitch will be doing to push the what's possible with the amount of people engaging at once will be really interesting to see. So I think not only in the game space, but just platforms in general on the internet, how they're doing things differently. I'm sure Facebook and Google and Microsoft and Amazon, they all have different projects that they're working on. But Twitch is, I think, an example of how they're pushing live streaming in a metaverse-like way. You can, I think, see it like that, which I think is interesting to add to the conversation, because I don't think anyone's mentioned live streaming yet.
That's a very nice example and very inspiring. So if you are the audience in front of YouTube or Facebook channel, if you have anything you want to ask or anything you want to know more about Metaverse, you can leave your questions, and then we can drop for you to our guest. So next, Sam, do you have anything you want to share with us about the key element of the Metaverse, or maybe something interesting you want to share with us about Metaverse?
Yeah, sure. Look, it just brought an example to mind of something we're creating at the moment for the University of Auckland. And I guess it's not what you'd traditionally call the Metaverse, because I think this is where, you know, you can kind of see it going outside of sort of what we imagine in VR. But what we're doing, and this started in the middle of COVID last year, is the University of Auckland basically found themselves in a position where their traditional way of marketing to students was just not going to work. Even courses, classes, and all of that had just basically been, you know, just been disrupted. And so we end up doing a phase 1 build for them, or creative project for them. And we're now working on the phase 2 project, which will be out shortly. But essentially what we've ended up, and what we initially kind of presented to them, and is where we're moving now, is essentially, it's called Your World, Your Way. And it's an online university experience. And so the idea of that was, what can we do to bring that university experience online? And it wasn't to replace the in-person experience, but to extend it, to allow access to newcomers to the university to get a feel for the life of the university, and for expats to come in and join a community. So it's all web-based, you know, it's not done through an app or anything like that. And essentially we've created a mini Auckland with, you know, buildings and stuff, but it's a really interesting concept. I think with the Metaverse, you know, when I was thinking about what we could talk about today, for me, it feels like very much that multiplayer or social connection, right? It's not just a singular experience, not one-on-one. So I think that's obviously where VR still got a lot to move. And so with this web experience, it's extending it so that instead of being isolated and everyone's on the same platform at the same time, how can we start to connect people while they're in these platforms at the same time? So I think that's a really interesting idea to explore. The same with augmented reality. I mentioned Snapchat earlier, and one of the things we're looking at is the potential for a game in Snapchat where you can have the community involvement and multiplayer events, basically multi-community events. So it's not just a single thing. They're wanting more to extend it. So it's not just you and your friend, it's actually involving the whole community. So I think that's a really important component of what we can now start to look at, is how do we bring, you know, again, that people connection in, but in a different space, to your physical space, right?
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I think the Metaverse is like a multi-user, multi-universe, multi-game, multi-platform, and it's like a meta-union of all this. And that's remind me that in our universe, we have different planet, different place, different country, but we have something share in common, like physics or like mathematics. So maybe in Metaverse, we still need something connect to each universe. Maybe it will be NFT, maybe it will be a very popular game, or maybe it will be like blockchain or something. Peter, do you have anything you want to share about this? Or yeah, Metaverse. Will your game or Pumpkin VR, will you release something or some feature on your game and maybe connect or create a whole new Metaverse? Yeah. You didn't open up your mic. Yeah.
So for us, for what we did is try to have the gamer just not only playing the game, but also, you know, can connect with other players in our games, like what I mentioned in the presentation. And then we add in a lot of function, like player going to have their own space station, and then they can also jump to other like bars to hang out with other players, and then always jump back into the game to play the PvP games. And I mean, like as for Metaverse, for me, I think it just happened. The tech, it just like happened recent in this like 2 or 3 years. It's not like we have that 5 years ago. Like, you know, like now VR become more and more mature, and also we have the cloud service like AWS. Also the cross-platform stuff is happening in these 2 or 3 years too. So I think for the studio or the company that have 1 or 2 this type of tech, they can have a mindset before building the meta product, and like how can use this type of tech to ultimately become to build the products. And also I think the key will be like first is the gotta be interactive, like and multiplayers, and then it's the core function about the product. Like for us it's the gameplay, and for other will be like what's the user really want, what you want to bring this experience for the user and with this metaverse environment. Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that's very important, and gaming or like gamers will definitely be very, very important in our history of Metaverse. So next question, I want to talk about the feeling or the present. I think last night I watched Ready Player One again, and I think we all watched that before, and there are a lot of like friendship or like intimacy. I think the intimacy may be the something like the one more step that we have to think about in our like VR metaverse experience. So what do you think that like the haptic feeling or intimacy or like emotion connection? I think that's I just talked about the mathematics and physics which connect the all universe, but I think another thing connect all universe is like the people or like the network, the connection, feeling of presence, and also the very important is intimacy between user and user, people and another person. So what do you think about what will happen in like 2 or 5 or 10 years? Will we really have some relationship or some friendship or like some intimacy experience, maybe physical or maybe psychological, or like it's just a feeling, or maybe some haptic suit, or what kind of intimacy level we can achieve in metaverse, maybe in VR or maybe not in VR, in 2 or 5 or 10 years? Who want to give us some nice, cool example or crazy idea? Yeah, Carol.
A few things that came to my mind. I really liked what Sam touched on earlier about having a healthy balance between going into a virtual world and then having that just that mental balance between the physical and the digital. And I do think I do think there will be a point, you know, you physically can't live in a virtual world, and I think it will be important to see where that line gets drawn. Nowadays, we're seeing people form relationships online through applications like Tinder and you know, meet people online, and I've personally made really good friends through Xbox Live, you know, and playing games together, and then that relationship growing to Facebook, and then ultimately in real life. And I think we're already in that kind of phase of starting to foster digital relationships. And I think the virtual worlds and the metaverse like future will have similar concerns that are already being spoken about now. And I think ultimately they will need to be brought back to the physical world, and you know, for them to be done in a healthy way. I definitely think intimacy will be pushed. The other point I wanted to talk about, though, is when it comes to VR experiences and just having a headset, what I'm really excited about are game-like experiences that use your voice as a controller, and having connections and, you know, making choices rather than using a keyboard or a controller, but using your voice and your body and just kind of being more immersed that way. And I think that will create more immersive experiences for gamers when you can actually use your voice, show more emotion, and that elicits different behavior and different reactions from the game engine and the game that you're playing. That's just something I'm interested in seeing more experimented with. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah,
I
that's
want
cool.
to add it. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Jesse.
Please.
I just want to add to that. I think, I think, as I was saying before, there's an ethical role that we play as developers and creators in this space, and what we make available and how far we extend that. I think that's really important. And I think, we have the opportunity to kind of make this amazing space versus something where, we lose a sense of humanity or what makes us human. And so I think that's really important to keep in mind when we're creating content. Inclusion and diversity is something that I'm really, really conscious of as well. And I was in Wanderer early development, I was putting my hand up going, we don't have enough women represented here. We don't have enough brown people represented. And in VR, it's really interesting because you take on the form of someone. So you look down, you see hands. And if you don't recognize those hands immediately, there's a disconnect. So I think that's a really important thing to kind of bring into what we're creating is how can we make sure that it's inclusive for everyone. The other thing was also, I play games to escape from people sometimes, and I love the idea of all these different interactions and the voice and stuff as well. But I think sometimes it's like, I just want that time to delve into a game without that outside noise, around me. So I think, again, that balance is so important, right? In what we're creating, and to know the moments to bring multiplayer environments in, to bring in your individual environments and how we can separate that. There was that, this is from years ago, that example on YouTube, I think it was, of someone walking into a supermarket and they'd just been bombarded through everything virtual and AR of ads and everything everywhere. And I guess that's the thing, is that's where our moral obligation to kind of where we sit within that framework and how we can create content that actually appeals to people, but doesn't put us in the space where, I don't want to harp on about it, but I guess there is some of that sense that, again, that we are humans at the end of it, and there's a sense of humanity that I'd really love to retain while also being entertained with it. I think, again, tech as an enabler is really how we should look at it, rather than replacing some of those real life moments, And so when I think of intimate moments, I think, well, some of those are best done in person, and otherwise, yeah, there are friends you can make. I mean, Carl and I have never met in person. I don't think, Carl. And I feel like I've developed a friendship with him, and there's a point you can get to, I think. And then after that, what does the rest of that look like?
That's very interesting, because it's remind me about the early days in 1969. The first VR system is called Damocles Sword, or like something like, it's like a very useful tool, but also very dangerous. I think the intimacy, or like the feeling of we live within the VR is very, very cool idea and very important, but maybe kind of dangerous or something like that. We need to talk about that. Yeah. So Peter, how about you? The PvP game, I think maybe intimacy is not the most important element, or maybe you think the League of Legends or like your new game Quanta, maybe there's some connection or some intimacy experience still happen in the game. What do you think?
I really agree with Sam, because I also a type of player that I play game to escape. Like, I not really like to talk with other gamer in the games. So when we doing the social platform in Quantar, like I would focus on make that mute button very easy to click, so you can mute other players or mute yourself, because the headset, the mic open automatically, and so that's a very important function. As a developer, I think we just keep you gotta do that with love. So if I can get the player like me want to talk or want to interactive in games, and then like that will be more. I think that's just something like we're really been working on. So it's interactive between gamer to gamer. Like how can you create some function for them to want to interact? I mean, like environment-wise, or the controllers, or even if changing the device to like mobile or PC, like what is that key element? Maybe just like little detail, but something that can make it fun, like just high five, like all that. So yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, maybe Zoom or Google Meet, they should provide something like high five or some features about that, right? So Joseph, you're in HTC, you're providing the basic, the fundamental layer of our VR life, or like the Metaverse. What do you think about that? Because I still remember the first time I wear the HTC VIVE in a very secret place, and that's my first time to play Deep Blue. I think the giant whale, it's really emotional touching. And the another thing that I still remember is when I play an VR app called 8i. There is like a hologram. A person, and represent is like a volumetric video, and that's like a cosplay girl stand in front in the middle of the desert, and I just control my controller and move just side by side, and the effect, or like the visual effect, the feeling, I think at a moment I really feel I'm with a person in virtual space. So that's a very, very important and a very interesting moment for me, because I think in the near future we can feel, or we can think that we are with someone in a virtual space, and it feels so real. So I think this kind of like intimacy, or like embodied experience, must be very important for HTC to provide the fundamental, the tools, or like the goggles, or like the environment for us. What do you think about that grand challenge, like intimacy in VR?
From my perspective, as we talk about the intimacy, we can separate into three functions. One is the hardware and the content, and I would say the last one with user experience. Talking about the hardware, like we invent and we release the full body tracker, so it can simulate your checking your hands, your feet, the behaviors, and we have the hand gesture, and we have the eye checking, and we have the facial checking. So we are trying to capture your body's emotions and your facial recognitions, the technologies. And very interesting, the research reports shows in the business conversations, if you don't blink your eyes, people feel you are fake. You are not talking about the truth. Yeah, you are not authentic. So that's the reason in the business use cases, the people tend to be a real, the avatar be authentic. The behaviors must be authentic and as interactive as much as they could. So, but to consumer, they'll be completely different. The people like the kind of the gaming behaviors. They like doing some tricks, funky stuffs. So I say the intimacy depends on use cases as well. So from hardware, the content-wise, the platform-wise will be like our, when you talk about the high five handshaking, we do have a product called Vive Sync, and they already implement these features because, in the business, and we can hug each other. Well, the first time you meet each other, you usually will kiss the cheek or something. So that we also, people think maybe this the tiny feature and the not really critical important, but it's really meaningful to the business engagements. The people like to interact this way, even in a virtual world. And talking about the user experiences, I would say, moving forward, we do see there's a brain control technology be reinvented, and the AI could help us to achieve something we are not really like to do, like what Carl say. Yeah, you can just say it and to make things happen. I think that's much more interactive, and this the long-term future. And even we do so the technologies people could use they can predict your behaviors without like wearing any hardware devices. They can predict you are stand up, you are sit down, or you're moving or running. So we anticipate that this like user experiences could be reinvented by new technology, especially by involved the AI technology in. So and we're really looking forward to the whole technologies, the grouping together to upgrade and to make the metaverse much more successful.
Yeah, that's great. So right now we welcome all the audience to throw out any kind of questions. If you are in Facebook, we now have 2 questions about AR combined with Metaverse, and also another question about AI blockchain combined with Metaverse. So we have the last questions, and maybe we can combine, or do you want to, if you want to share anything about AR with Metaverse, or like AI blockchain with Metaverse, that's fine also. So my last question is, I know this event is focused on the game developers. Since each of you is very experienced in the game and content creation industry. So in your opinion, what are the challenges or opportunities that game developers might face in the future, or maybe suggestions for game developers? What do you think about that? Maybe Peter, you go first, because you are the game developer. So if some developers who is very interesting about the Metaverse or XR, what will you talk about? Yeah.
I think the gameplay, it's the whole point. Like, I mean, like we great to have all this tech. Now in 2021, we have like this and that, like I mentioned, like we have AWS and cross-platform and VR headset, and like mobile, and lots of players join on different device. Even like Steam, they have the Evolve, they have the Steam Deck or Switch. Like all that is a new platform for developer to maximum their player. But that is all our advantage. But at the end, like still like to building the game, you gotta have the core gameplay to make the player to they have fun, and then like you use that other advantage to keep building your game and become more and more big. I think it's going step by step, like doing pre-alpha and alpha, beta, and getting opinion from the user, and that's very important for the studios.
Yeah, talking about the new platform, we will think about, will there be enough money to earn? Like, so VR game developer is earning quite a lot of money right now, right? So, yeah, Sam, do you have anything you want to share with us? Because many of our audience right now in front of YouTube or Facebook, they are maybe the game developer all over the world. So what do you think, or what do you want to tell them? Anything about like Metaverse or like XR experience?
I just wanted to say first, we're not making lots of money yet, but that's definitely on the cards, right? I think, like I've mentioned a few things already. I think again, some of the ethics around it, and for us to be conscious of, we're creating this content. I've got a 7-year-old son who, for him, in terms of the content that I see him engaging with, sometimes games that are available, for example, on tablet and mobile, there's a massive monetization, kind of stream that goes through them. And as a parent, I just look at that and kind of go, look, what have we become? I'm like an old school gamer when you used to pay for a game, have it and play it as much as possible without that interruption. So for me, I feel like there's part of me that wants to get back to some of that sort of content without this constant interruption and what gaming has become in that space, you know, rather than from just gameplay and storytelling and exploring worlds, it's become this tap monetization thing. So for me, I feel like as game developers, staying true to sort of developing for entertainment, right? For fun, engagement, entertainment, bringing story into it, but not sacrificing gameplay, basically. Some of the things I talked about earlier in terms of inclusion and diversity and thinking about that, you know, I think also there's this tendency to, I know definitely for me, growing up, the content that I was exposed to was very much, you know, white male focused, I'll be really honest, like a lot of the characters and books and movies, and very Americanized even. So when I was writing my own stories and content, I'd also write it that way because in my head, I felt like that was what it needed, you know, that was the frame it needed to be written in, to be read. So I think we need to change that as developers in this space, not go, oh, actually, we should make sure our players white and male because that's our main audience. Actually, forget that. Let's look at who else is playing and making it more accessible for people to see themselves in the game. So again, look, this is something, you know, it's a topic really close to my heart, so I can get very on my platform about it. But I think we have to consider the audiences that are playing this content and engaging with it. And, you know, and how we can, as we're creating the content, right? Like, and consumers are basically just playing the content that we create for them. So the more great content we create, hopefully the more great content they're playing. So I think some of that comes into play, and stuff we enjoy as well. Sometimes I've seen, you know, and I think people have fallen into the trap of going, I'm going to create this because it's the most popular and it's going to be the one that makes the most money. I mean, I understand that because as a business person, you know, that almost allows you to do then anything you want. But I again feel like there's a space there that if we create content that you love, you'll be much more passionate about it, put you all into creating it, and that comes through in the final product. So I think a lot of that, as well as, of course, in game development, I know how hard it is to get funding and get stuff off the ground. You know, for 2 to 3 years, we pushed Wanderer. We're at the cusp of basically going, look, we've spent so much time and money, and if we didn't have our own studio, we wouldn't have even been able to do that. You know, we were able to kind of pay for people while we're running our studio and essentially put our own money into it. And we were just, you know, and something happened at the last moment with this PlayStation signed on, basically. But I guess that's the other thing is don't get disheartened, you know. And I'm really hoping, I mean, I guess the great thing is also that tension that the games industry has had, especially in the last couple of years in the AR, VR space. And now the hardware and everyone else coming on board, you know, just as a studio, I think keep on that track. There's a lot more opportunity out there. And I think there are people available, obviously, you know, like people like Joseph, who you can probably connect with and talk to. Sorry, Joseph, I don't want to give your name and number out, but you know, there's people that are available to talk to. So you can, I'm just seeing what's happening in the indie space in New Zealand and just how that's grown in the last even year and the opportunities that are there now. And I think that's just amazing. So what can we all do to make this industry just so much better?
Yeah, that's great, because I think we need more like people to involve in this trend. It's like a paradigm shift. I'm a deep believer of the XR or the Metaverse. So maybe we need some incentive for maybe not only game developer, but also VC, venture capital. They if they have incentive, they can put more effort or like give everyone more resources or maybe more great game developer in this area. So Joseph, do you have any kind of like data or like numbers? Tell us about the game developer will earn money and the investor, if you're looking good, if you want to invest in something like this, like game developers in VR or XR, they will earn money back, or do you have any optimistic things you can share with us and encourage more people to join?
Yeah. So I would like to echo what Peter just said. In the making a good game is most important than talking about is a metaverse or not, because the game itself is the product. You need to make it a good game, and then you can think about how to enlarge the scales. So I would say fundamentally you need the good game, regardless it's a AAA content or it's an indie studio to develop the content. Because as a Viveport, we are the XR content platform. We engage more than 1,200 more developers yearly. So we do see some up and down, and some developers doing pretty well. Even the indie games, just like recent launch, there's a studio, and they launched the title called Hyper Dash. It's a 4-to-4 player. There's a like Counter Strike game. It very like the shooting games. It's the battle. It's a team players, but it's really fun. So it doesn't mean you have to invest a lot of money or budgets to do it, or it doesn't mean you have to be blockchain based. But as long as your game is doing well and you can make money, you can make impact. But on the other hand, I would say the blockchain or the NFT do give the developers another options. I would say it's not a decision, or it's not the key elements. You have to do it. I think it's more like an option to all developers. If your game is really suitable, you really think it's good for this this industry and this business models, and you can do it. But otherwise, don't just intend to do it, because they will make your games maybe horrible. Because eventually, all the atmospheres within your games and the designs will be all the critical. So don't force your games, your studios to do the blockchain or the metaverse concepts, because it will happen eventually, but not you forced to do it. So in terms of the scale, JC, you're talking about, I would say it's really hard to predict, because every studios, their titles, it's just like you're making a movie. You just need to believe it. You don't need to test it. You need to optimize it based on the feedbacks, and then eventually you will find, okay, this is customers' needs. But there's no shortcut. There's no guarantee. Even there's the multi-million movies could lose the money. But so I would say there's the making the good games, just like you're making the good movie, but the making a good movie will be a well popular, or it's a well sold. The movie will be different. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool. So the audience they raised a question about AR or AI or blockchain, about metaverse. I think the answer is already here. It's like you have to build something you love, and the gameplay, and the make something really great, and then the metaverse will need it. So Carol, you're the last. We are running out of time, but do you have something you want to tell to talk about the metaverse or the game developers, or what do you want to say to game developers? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's perfect. There's actually two things that I want to end on that I think are really important things that we should be aware of. The first one is the games industry is still very young and it's still maturing. I think it's incredible how fast games as a medium has impacted society, and how it just continues to grow with technology. But I think it's maturing, and I think the kind of experiences that games are offering are getting deeper and are becoming more important and connected to just really important stories that should be told in a games medium, things that are told through film and books and music on a daily basis. And I'm really excited to see games mature as a medium and start to tackle these really difficult stories that haven't been told yet. So I think that's something to be aware of, is that the games industry is maturing, and to be more brave with the games that you're developing, to not be afraid to tell the stories that might make you feel vulnerable, because I think those are the things that will move the industry forward and just make it more immersive, make it more entertaining, make it more important, and to just show the potential of games as a medium. And the second thing that I want to say is games in their nature, they kind of have the ability to disrupt everything. And when talking about augmented reality, the thing that I want to make it clear to everyone as well is that there's enough room for all of these different types of game experiences. So I think even in a metaverse world, there'll still be mobile games, there'll still be console. It's not like everything's going to go virtual, but I think there'll be room for all of these. Same as augmented reality, I think there'll be certain applications that will become very commonplace in certain industries, but then there'll still be innovations happening in different areas on different platforms. And I think everyone should just be aware that there's room for everyone. There isn't one way to tell a story. There isn't, one platform that will come out on top. I think games are becoming more adopted by more people on a daily basis, and people are seeing the value and the potential in games, and that, there's room for everyone on all of these different areas that are being innovated on at the moment.
Wow, thank you for, it's quite a nice conclusion about today. Yeah, I saw the news about a Mario 64 cartridge, a whole new unopened, is like $1.6 million on bid. I'm very surprised. I think, wow, Mario 64 is just like yesterday or last year, So I think the game industry is very young. Still eagerly needs a lot of innovation, and there will be a lot of stuff happen in the game industry, no matter Metaverse or not. So very nice to have a fireside chat today with you all guys. And I hope our audience in front of YouTube or Facebook, you will like it. So I will hand it back to Sherry.
Thank you, Professor Cole, and thanks once again, thanks to all the speakers for joining this event today and gave us such awesome talk. I believe Metaverse is surely a huge opportunity for all the XR developers out there. So it seems like everyone had a great time in sharing. So please feel free to stay online with us at the end of the live stream for future discussion. So just a reminder that we are holding an online virtual showroom with 5 Taiwanese game companies on this. So make sure to check out their information while you visit the room. And now I'm going to thank HTC VIVE, Method and Theory, Pumpkin Studio, New Zealand Game Developers Association, and Rocketwood, and Taipei Game Show, and National Taipei University of Technology. Special thanks to Ministry of Awesome and Spark Amplify as our social partners. Lastly, I would like to thank all the speakers again and all the audience who are joining us today. I believe Metaverse is a huge opportunity for the game developers there. So yeah, so this is the end of our online of Metaverse. Thanks everyone, and thanks all the audience. So see you guys for the next event of XREXPRESS Taiwan. Bye everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye guys.
Bye.
Bye. Have a nice day. Bye.